here making a lot of noise. Oh, I forgot to put my brace on. That's my signature at the moment. All right, come on. Put the capo on the guitar, and I'm in standard tuning today. What are you going to do here, Hammerman? You usually do something crazy. It's funny, I left here yesterday and my car seemed to lose a lot of power. I think according to my mechanic, one of the coil packs has gone out. So I left my car at the mechanic, of which I have the utmost respect. And I'm so blessed because I've had two mechanics most of the time in my life, and one of them I've had all my life. And I had his father as a mechanic. Not like I really had, but his father was my mechanic, and his grandfather and grandmother owned a service station across the way along with his father, and they serviced me, and I watched this wonderful family grow up. They're the Whitbecks over in Cooksburg, New York, and they're all honest as the day is long, and I'm so blessed. And then I had another mechanic that would work on my old jalopies, because not everybody wants to work on old broken down jalopies. And when this mechanic friend of mine closed up his shop, he decided to team up with my old friend mechanic, Bill Whitbeck, and the two of them do a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious job over there in Cooksburg. No doubt they'll be working on my little car today. My little car ain't so new no more. It's got 180,000 miles. And a friend of mine always says that when they get to around 200 these days, that's when you begin to have little minor problems. And trouble is, I don't like to get rid of cars. I like to get attached. I drove an old pickup truck up here today, my old pick-em-up truck, and yeah, it's not the same as driving a car because it's a 1998. And anyway, drove me pickup truck down here today, and I made it. That's the important thing. My mechanic called me and said, well, he didn't really say. He said, Hairman, he told me to pick up my car. I told him I wasn't strong enough to do that. Now I took my car to a mechanic and told him it was making a horrible noise. He removed this heavy metal CD from the radio, and now it's quiet. I have a friend that told me he took his truck to a Quantum dealership that both repaired and didn't repair his truck at the same time, and that he was never too certain about what the charge would be. Utmost respect to mechanics, of course, all the time. One retired sailor greets another long-time friend and says, no see. Salute to the bow while recognizing the port. Starboard and ringing the chimes, celebrating the stern and pointing the jib to my mind, body, and soul. It's like the Eucharist, most honored ever present particle that I hold so dear. Enjoy your youth as you pass by, for as I once was, so you will be. Or to rephrase it another way, enjoy youth as you pass by. For I once was, so you are now. From smooth and lathe and round and pointing the bow at the Southern Cross, to wrinkled leather and torn up jibs. I stand at the helm, one hand on the tiller and the other pumping the bilge. Old sailors are as perennial as the cleats and the fiddle deck and the blocks that they pull the sheets through. I don't know why they call sheets ropes, but if I ever knew, well, I don't know. I never said that any of this makes any sense, you know. I can go one thing in my mind from another, and maybe I just have too many things in my mind, and maybe sometimes they just fall out on the floor because the roads are empty in the early morning. Yeah. Reminds me of the 4th of July, and the smoke hangs on the horizon. And up north, across the border, where they celebrate a different mind, it's one day of the year where left and right and those left out pay allegiance to the stars and the stripes. As the ammunition explodes overhead, it's like a cliche. I didn't say this was going anywhere, I'm just dancing in my dreams. Reminds me of a time that I was living in a 4th floor walk up there in South Boston. The rent had become too high in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I was trying to get educated beyond my intellect. And I had this little room that was dirt cheap. Used to be a closet. Had 2 doors. One of them nailed shut with a little block of wood covering a hole in it that was adjacent to another room that another guy lived in. See, it was a rooming house over there in Union Park. Well, back then, Union Park was sort of a derelict area with a park in the center and a couple old cast iron fountains spewing water and a locked gate. And now it's one of them high-class neighborhoods where people roll around in their Rolls Royces and their mink coats and stoles, and people throw paint on them. Is that called PETA? Anyway, overhead was a skylight. If I stood up, I could stick my head out of the skylight. That's the only place I could stand. The little closet was maybe about 6 feet by 8 feet. That was my room for 4 years. Oh, the South End, what a great place that was. The nights were long, and the days were longer. Lots of junkies. Lots of people that were down and out and the poor, the people that were left behind. And I remember almost every night a guy with a saxophone that was on methadone and was casually chipping besides would come by the place with his saxophone wailing, those eerie tones through the night. And once in a while, if I was hungry, I'd take him down to the old Chinatown and I'd treat him to dinner. Those were the days before the wrinkles set in. Neighborhoods in Boston and gated communities probably wouldn't even let me walk down the street now in my condition. Anyway, that's where I was going with this, absolutely nowhere. I'll tell you more later, but I think it's time that I just shut my pie hole and we get to work.